Hey, what's up on this Tuesday morning, July 2nd? We're in the second half of 2024. This week, we have a really packed show. So major cybersecurity news headlines for this week. We have vulnerable 5G phone connections, breaches and attacks on WordPress websites, Google Ads infecting people. I will try to get through this as fast as possible, but I'll warn you now, this will be longer than my previous shows. I've added a few new sections to this weekly update. In addition to the cyber news, I've added a deep dive section to talk about a particular topic in detail, a personal security tip. Many of the cyber news stories affect businesses and cybersecurity professionals, so I wanted to add a section to benefit even more people, and sometimes a product feature where I'll feature a tech-related gadget that I personally use and recommend. Malware benefits from using the cloud. Most open source software is not safe. Nearly every popular app leaked credentials, and car dealers are still dealing with this massive outage from a ransomware attack. I'll also show you the only safe air duster for your keyboards that does not contain dangerous chemicals. A deep dive will be in the snowflake breaches that we mentioned before in a prior news video. The personal security tip of the week is how to prevent eavesdropping on your mobile phone, so don't miss that. Stay tuned for that. Hey, I'm Mike Kramer, KramerNow.com. I inform people about cybersecurity without expensive subscriptions by explaining the latest cyber news and resources. Make sure to watch to the end, because later I'm going to tell you exactly how to prevent your mobile phone from being used to hack your information. All right, so the snowflake breach. First up, regarding this huge snowflake breach, Mandiant has found no evidence that Snowflake's enterprise environment was breached. Instead, each incident has been traced back to compromised customer credentials, meaning attackers logged in with valid accounts by cracking their authentication, which we'll talk more about in today's deep dive, so stay tuned for that. WordPress, the largest website platform powering blogs and sites all over the world, is under attack that's spreading malicious JavaScript code through multiple plugins that give attackers administrator rights on websites and fills the sites with spam. In Indonesia, where over 200 government agencies have been impacted by a ransomware attack, and the country is refusing to pay the $8 million ransom. Cyber attackers turn to cloud services to deploy malware. So just as companies realize benefits of cloud architecture with high availability, resiliency, and scalability, threat actors are realizing those benefits as well, moving some operations such as command and control to cloud-based platforms. AI can be hacked, so called the skeleton key. It tricks AI platforms into giving uncensored answers on illegal activity, such as building bombs, creating malware, and much, much more. This happened last week in ChatGPT, as I reported last week, but now we know Microsoft, OpenAI, Google, and Meta Gen AI models can all be convinced to ditch their guardrails, opening the door to obtaining dangerous information. It would be irresponsible of me to disclose the method they use, but it involves revising the prompt to trick AI into providing the information, and I can confirm that this method still works on some of the major AI platforms as of last night. Microsoft has fixed theirs apparently by changing or removing the prompts that had previously worked. Next headline, 52%, that's the majority of critical open source projects are written in a memory unsafe programming language such as C or C++. The reason this is so scary is 70% of all CVEs, that's common vulnerabilities and exposures, are related to memory safety issues. CVEs are what most security patches are written for, so every time you are applying security patches to a system, it's often to fix a CVE. It's recommended to write code in memory-safe languages such as Python, C#, Java, Ruby, and there's actually quite a few others. There's a critical ADO-DB vulnerability fixed in Ubuntu. So Ubuntu is a popular Linux OS distribution that has a familiar UI that's or user interface that's similar to Windows. Poseidon Mac Stealer, distributed via Google Ads. So this is Poseidon is Stealer malware. It grabs or steals info, including VPN and network configs, to securely access other networks that they're not supposed to, and collects data. Then it exfiltrates it to an external source. And they've been finding this in Google Ads. Pretty scary stuff, because if you don't have an ad blocker, you might just click this ad and, So the Federal Reserve breach was not actually breached. It appears to actually be Evolve Bank, not the Fed. Now, Evolve Bank is used by Shopify for its Shopify balance accounts, and most store owners were notified of the breach on Thursday, June 27th. If you're not aware, Shopify is the largest e-commerce or online shopping platform. It's used behind the scenes by online stores all over the place. Chinese state actors use ransomware to conceal their real intent. Their real intent is spying and collecting info, so we think, but they also benefit from the possibility of collecting ransom money to fund their operations. But when funded by nation states, the concealment also gives them plausible deniability to claim that it wasn't them. This research highlights the strategic use of ransomware by cyber espionage actors for financial gain, disruption, or as a tactic for distraction or misattribution. The use of ransomware as part of cyber espionage activities may result in their misattribution as financially motivated operations. So now your phone's 5G connection is vulnerable to bypass and denial of service attacks. Wireless service providers prioritize uptime and lag time, occasionally at the cost of security, which is terrifying, allowing attackers to take advantage, steal data, and even worse. There were some Penn State researchers that have reported all the vulnerabilities they discovered to their respective mobile vendors, which have all since deployed patches. But a more permanent solution would be to secure 5G authentication. If you use X, formerly Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, Coinbase, or any of several other hugely popular apps and websites, chances are your personal data and documents have been leaked. The company responsible for the leak, Auto10Tix or AU10TIX, is based in a suburb of Tel Aviv and specializes in identity verification via personal documents, biometrics, and more. Its customers include major companies like X, TikTok, LinkedIn, Coinbase, eToro, PayPal, Fiverr, Upwork, Bumble, Uber, and many others. Wow, a lot of news this week. This final story brings us to our personal security tip of the week. Apple AirPods bug allows eavesdropping. The vulnerability affects not only AirPods, but also AirPods Max, Powerbeats Pro, Beats Fit Pro, and all models of AirPods Pro. Apple has released a firmware update. Make sure to get that right away. So this week's personal tip is to keep your mobile devices patched, really all of your software you want to keep patched, and make sure to also patch your firmware. Firmware is really just software running on hardware that you don't typically interact with directly. In this case, make sure to update the firmware on your AirPods right away. For Apple iPhone users with AirPods, you can just go to Settings, Bluetooth, and click on the info button. There's a little I button icon. Next to your headphones, you'll see that icon, and then scroll to the About section to find the firmware version. I'll put a link in the description and comments below to Apple's website where they list the latest firmware for each model of the headphones. Hopefully that'll help you out. It's just on support.apple.com, and then I'll put the link below. My product pick of the week is at Amazon this time. Someone please click one of my Amazon links before September, or else I lose my Amazon affiliate status. I make a few cents on them, but I only recommend the stuff I use myself. It's of no additional cost to you. It just attributes the sale to me sending you their way, and I get a few cents out of it. Check out any of the Amazon links I have in my video description. For example, this one, there are things priced at all different price points. It's literally just stuff I use, and I put the links in there that I recommend. There's a lot of stuff I've used that I don't recommend, but I won't share those with you because I don't recommend them. So this week's product is a cordless air duster. Due to huffers, which are people trying to get high from compressed air dusters, they've added a bittering agent to all of them. You may have noticed this. It's been an absolute nightmare. Many people are highly allergic to this bittering agent, including myself. It gets on everything. It's very hard to get off. For me, it made my eyes very puffy and itchy. And just from touching a surface I sprayed earlier, I would taste the absolutely horrendous bitter taste. I found a solution. I found an air duster on Amazon that's cordless. It's rechargeable. It can be used in any direction or orientation, unlike those air blasters, which will instantly freeze your skin. And most importantly, it's just air. There's no bittering agents in these products. I'm going to recommend it. Even comes with brush attachments and nozzles to clean every nook and cranny in your keyboard or anything else you need to blast with air. So I'll put a link to that Amazon product below. Please purchase with my link. It's no additional cost to you, and I get to keep my Amazon affiliate status to help cover costs of my blog and this video production. Thank you in advance. So in other information and resources, the attack.mitre, that's mitre.org. Get started learning the 14 tactics that attackers use in the real world and the hundreds of techniques that are under each tactic or category. And I want to show, before we get into today's deep dive, I'm going to show a little bit right now. If we go into that attack.mitre.org, everyone pronounces this attack if you're not familiar, but it's ATT and CK. And that just stands for Adversarial Tactics, Techniques, and Common Knowledge. So it's a way they're putting this together. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it here, so you can go there, read it. It's all in free information. And the common one is for the matrix for enterprise, but you can see there's all sorts of other matrices, like for mobile or for industrial control systems. So that's more at like manufacturing plants and things like that. But enterprise is the common way. And these are actual real world. These are the 14 that go across the top. And those are 14 real world tactics that attackers use to hack you, to attack you. So what's neat is that, they all get this TTP number. It'll say T in 4 digits typically, and you can just click on any one of these. In general, these go, I'm going to do a deep dive on MITRE later in a future video, but these in general, it goes left to right from how they would attack. They don't have to hit all categories, and they certainly aren't going to use all of the techniques in here. If you read it left to right, you'll see what I'm talking about. Typically, they're doing some reconnaissance. Then they're going to develop their resources, whether that's their tools they're using or staging the tools. They're going to get initial access to your environment. They're going to execute something. They're going to want to commit some kind of persistence to stay in your environment long term, stay hidden. They're going to often try to escalate their privileges. They're going to, of course, want to evade detection or defenses there. They may continue on getting other credential access if they couldn't escalate privileges or whatnot. While they're in their environment now, they can discover a whole lot more than they could in this reconnaissance phase. So they're going to go try to discover good information, whatever they're trying to get out of there. Lateral movement across the environment. These are ways they do that. Collection. Scroll over. I didn't see that right away. So collection. They're sitting there trying to collect information, collect data. Command and control, something we could talk about later. That's how they control like a botnet, for example, or any computers that have become infected or become zombies. They can control them with this command and control, often abbreviated as C2 or CNC. Data exfiltration, of course, or other credential exfiltration. And then impact is business impact, how they're going to do these horrible things to you. They could deface, disk wipe, all these things, financial theft. So that's all covered in the MITRE attack. Very cool stuff. We use this all the time in cybersecurity. So that was just a bit of the other info or resources I wanted to mention today. So you can kind of read up on that if you're bored and just study things in there. Again, we'll do a deep dive in there if it sounds interesting. We could start talking about more of that, but we're going to get a little more exposure to it with today's digital deep dive. And back to me with today's digital deep dive. First of all, what is Snowflake? We're talking about the Snowflake breach. Snowflake is a data lake and data warehouse provider that's in the cloud, and it allows for high performance and scalability, completely built in the cloud like Amazon Redshift. So this attack or breach falls under MITRE TTP, that's a tactic, technique, or procedure, under T1621 or T1556.006. So when you see those dots, it's a sub-technique under the technique that was in the MITRE matrix. So these TTPs are specifically for credential access, MFA, that's multi-factor authentication, or MFA request generation. Let's go back to the matrix real quick. I'll show you where that lies. So while we're in here, let me just scroll down. You can see a little bit more here, credential access. There we go. And so TTP 1621 or 1556. So we have credential access is 1621. Credential access is right here. You'll see they even get a TA number, and then each one of these, if you hover, has that T number, but they're in alphabetical order here. So under credential access, the TTP that was used in the attack was multi-factor or MFA request generation. I'm not sure if this is what they used 100%. Real quick on the matrix as a whole, I use this matrix almost daily in my cybersecurity job. So if you're an aspiring cybersecurity professional, get very familiar with it and how to use it. Read all about it on their website. A lot of free information there. I'll do a future episode just on MITRE ATT&CK if you find that useful. People got in using valid accounts, which is 1556, I think, in here. So if we go down to valid accounts with initial access, yeah, here we go. Oh, that's 1078. Sorry. So they got in with valid accounts as well. What that means is existing accounts, they didn't create a new account or hack in using some injection or anything else. They got in with somebody else's credentials. And you think, well, how did they do that if they had MFA enabled? And that's where the other tactics come in. So, 1621 or 1556. And you could read more about each of those in the matrix here. And if you're ever click into the matrix and you're reading something like this, you can go back to matrices enterprise, or a quick way is just hit home. You'll get right back up there and you could look up and read about other attacks. Well, let's see, 1621. You could also search here too and just say 1621. You got to put the T in. And it'll go right to the story about it. So you can click on that. You'll see 1621. There's no sub techniques. Tactic is credential access, and it'll talk about ways it did it. Now, real quick, I don't want to dive too much into this, but not only does it talk about here, but it shows all these examples in the real world of where these advanced persistent threats have used this attack and mitigation techniques. And then what I like, we use in the SIM world a lot, is detection methods here, where you're going to read about how to detect this activity, and that way you can alert on it, etc. Sometimes they'll mention Windows event IDs or very specific processes that you could detect, things like that. So that's why you want to always look for that in detection. And then of course they'll list their references. So pretty cool stuff there. Again, if you're wondering how are other ways they can get initial access, you could read about all of those in there. So people got in using valid accounts despite them being protected by MFA or multi-factor authentication. An example of which is like when you get a text code, you have to enter that text code in addition to your username and password. That's one version of MFA or multi-factor authentication. It's multiple factors or different methods to authenticate, not just username and password. There's like something else, right? Some people call it 2FA or two-factor authentication. You can have more than two, so we just generally call it MFA. If the controls around MFA are weak enough, such as easily allowing an attacker to change devices or uses MFA fatigue to get lucky enough that a user will just accept the MFA request because if users keep getting these MFA requests, at some point they might just be like, yeah, fine. My computer, locked up, it's freaking out, I'll just accept it. Some sort of procedural failure or weak controls around that MFAs. From there, the attacker is in and they can now further manipulate. Now, the fact that so many Snowflake customers were breached makes it seem like Snowflake themselves were breached, but that was not the case, though it does beg the question, should stronger controls be globally enforced by Snowflake to prevent such prevalent attacks using this method? These same techniques were recently used by attackers to attack large casinos and other large organizations. MFA may have fallen prey to giving people a false sense of security. Deploy MFA and assume you're very secure. So perhaps people had weaker passwords, didn't change them often, and didn't review their MFA controls and protocols. To defend against any attack, we have to be diligent every single time, whereas attackers need to only get in once. To mitigate or prevent against this type of attack, you would want to use MFA. There's nothing wrong with it. Inherently, it's a good additional measure, but it has to be used in practice with regular authentication, meaning a good username and password. Procedures are followed. Implementing MFA with good controls wrapped around that. Change your passwords regularly. Use strong passwords, at least 15 characters. The more the better. And don't use common words due to dictionary attacks. Be diligent with MFA. Only approve login requests that are you. Don't just blindly approve them. Check the devices registered to your MFA. make sure you don't leave old devices on your MFA. You might sell an iPad or cell phone or something, and now somebody else could have that MFA method. Call your cell phone provider and ask them to lock your SIM with a PIN code so that others can't swap your phone number to their device, which is known as SIM swapping. Never give out your information on the phone to someone that calls you or you aren't 100% sure it's the intended party that you called. This can enable SIM swapping because they will pretend they're someone else, ask you to read the MFA code that you get in a text, and now they don't even need to steal your cell phone. You just gave them the MFA code and you didn't realize it because you thought it was for something else. Let me know if you have any questions about anything we covered today. Hopefully we didn't go too long, but please check out my links in the description, especially my Amazon links. Shameless plug, because if you don't, I'm going to get dropped by the Amazon Affiliates program if I don't have one sale by September. So I really appreciate it. Those are really products that I use myself and highly recommend. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Remember, this show is also available on your favorite podcast platform. So however you like to stay informed, I try to provide that. Newsletter, sign up on kramernow.com, as well as blog posts featuring my YouTube video. I hope this helped at least one person out there. See you next time, and stay safe out there.